in your heart center. We want to talk about loving from a conscious place and coming from a conscious place of understanding yourself, having enough love for yourself to get you into a healthy, beautiful relationship and what that looks like. We're going to talk about adventure therapy and what that looks like. You know me, that's one of my favorite things in the world, right? Is adventure and therapy and love, right? So today, some of my favorite topics for sure. And we, like I said, we are going to bring them on in just a little bit. Today, the first thing I do want to give is a life hack for you. And the life hack that I'm going to give you is just to talk a little bit about love languages. And so many people don't even understand what the love languages are, right? And what love languages are is it's how you either receive love or how you give love in your life. And the greatest thing in the world, guys, is that once you understand that others maybe have a different love language than you, or maybe you're not receiving love in the way you thought you were receiving, that will give you a key tip on where to either how your partner loves, or how you receive love, or how you give love. And guys, the greatest thing in the world is that when I learned the love languages, it was so cool to me because it's like a personality type. You love in a personality type, and people say to me like, Noelle, wait, what? Love is in a personality type, but it really is, guys. Your heart center and your emotions and all of your stories that come with it is just a way that you love, right? And it's a way that you get to express yourself with your self-love and express your love to others, right? So there are 5 different love languages, and the first love language is acts of service. And so that is when you receive love and you feel like somebody is doing things for you, like somebody does the dishes for you, or they'll hang a picture for you, or they'll just take care of you, and you feel very taken care of with the acts of service. And that's truly a form of love, right? And the next is physical touch. And that is, when people hug or kiss, and some people are just more touchy than others, right? And some people are like, whoa, my bubble, your bubble, right? So you want to make sure that you understand, if yours is physical touch, that everybody doesn't have physical touch as well. The next is words of affirmation. And this is when people feel loved when they hear, I love you, or you're beautiful, or you're amazing. And just the words of affirmation concretes that love in for you. And the next is gifts. And this is not a materialistic love in any way, guys. This is really just a love that they feel when people shower them with gifts, that's when they feel the most loved. And that's okay as well. And then the last is quality time. And how that looks is if someone gives you their undivided attention, right? If someone is putting their phone down and spending, all of their focus on you, and you feel so loved in that moment, that's quality time, right? Now, one thing I want to tell you guys is that I give love and receive love very, very differently. So it's really important for you to understand that you might not be giving or receiving the love the same way, and your partner might not literally receive and give the same way. So I'm 100% touch because I'm a total mush. I love to cuddle. I love to kiss. I love, and I always tell people how much I love them. And I always am doing acts of services because that's how I show love, right? But when I receive love, I actually love to get hugged, and I love the physical touch aspect. But really, I need my space a tremendous amount of time. So the acts of service is a really big thing for me because I'm so busy and my life is so crazy. So when my partner gives me an act of service and helps me, that actually helps me tremendously in my life. And I feel so loved by that. So what we get to do is we get to figure out who we are through these love languages, right? We get to lean back and we get to say, oh, wait, hey, my partner actually loves words of affirmation, but I'm not really a words of affirmation person, but I know it actually makes him feel like a greater person. And I'm just going to love on him by telling him how much I love him. And I'm going to love on him by if his other was touched, by just giving him a massage or something like that. And so it's just this quick little life hack, guys, is that sometimes the love language that you think that you are putting out there and you get in an argument or you get in a fight with somebody, is because their love language is just a little bit different than yours. So when you lean back and you actually analyze, okay, maybe how can I help my partner? How can I do this in a better way to make him actually feel more loved? And that's coming from the best unconditional love, agape love, is when you really are giving and receiving at the highest level without conditions behind it. So guys, the 5 love languages, once again, they are acts of services, physical touch, words of affirmation, gifts, and quality time. And just analyze the type of love that you receive and the type of love that you like to give. And I promise you, that will save your relationship. We will be right back after this short message. Today's sponsor for our show is my company. It's the Soul on Fire show is sponsored by Noelle Agape Global. And we will be right back with Scott and Nancy, because you do not want to miss this show. These guys are the most amazing humans you will ever meet. We'll be right back. See you soon. Hi guys, and welcome back. Thank you so much for everyone that is watching, and thank you for everyone that's watching on the replay. Today you are in for such a special treat, because 2 of the most favorite humans on this planet, and for sure my favorite couple that I know, Scott and Nancy Kiesling, they are love relationship coaches and they are adventure therapy coaches. Guys, welcome. Thanks for being here, guys. We're so excited to have you.
Oh, thanks for having us, Noelle.
Yeah.
It's so great to see you.
Oh, I know. We love you just as much. Right back at you, girl. So happy to be here.
Oh, guys, so tell us a little bit about what you do, because it's truly just this gift that you bring to everybody in life. It's this your adventure therapy at best, and your love coaches. I mean, that the mixture of that, to me, you know, I'm all love and I'm all adventure. So you're gonna put those 2 together, and it's my favorite things on the planet. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, same with us, right? 2 of our favorite things. We use adventure therapy to support women to break their cycle of failed relationships, so they can have that healthy, happy, successful relationship and loving relationship that they've always dreamed about, but haven't gotten to really have in its fulfillment yet. So we use adventure therapy, meaning we get people out of the cage of their mind. We tie in their physiology with their mindset, which is 2 very important components that often aren't combined. A lot of people leave that physiology side out. And what happens in that is you have a mindset change if you go through coaching or you start to do some self-growth, but you'll hit a wall. You'll start to have, you know, the downside of the roller coaster, because your physiology, our muscle memory, keeps score of every single experience we've had in life, good or bad. So tying in that physiology with the mindset shift that you're having allows you to stay on the upswing of self-growth and not get dragged down by the physiology.
Well, and like you were saying earlier, just what nature does on the brain, what nature does for our physical, our soul, and our mind at the same time. And when you tie that physiology in, once you get through the neural pathways and you retrain them, right? When you can tie it into the body, so the body stops acting out in depression, anxiety, whatever it is, then you get that complete change.
I love that so much, guys. And you guys speak my language so much, the neural pathways and the adventure and the love and the body and the kinesiology of making the mind-body connection. And that's what we teach on this show, right? We teach about making the mind-body connection and how important that is. So the 2 of you are probably one of the most conscious couple that I know, really. I mean, you love from your soul and you truly bring that out into the world. I want to ask if it's okay. And I know that every time I have you guys on, I ask you to tell these stories, but just your story of getting there, because it's such a beautiful journey, and just to have the viewers see the depth of the people that you guys are and how you got from where you were to where you in the relationship that you are right now.
Yeah. You want to go first? Sure. All right. Well, for me, I come from a family of women, right? I've been surrounded by women since I was born. I've got 4 older sisters. lots of female, females, aunts in the families, cousins. Our house was constantly filled with women. So I gained this unique perspective of women, what we go through, how we talk to ourselves, how we feel, how we often lie to ourselves. And I've always been connected with women. I was taught a very strong independency to have boundaries, have standards, be strong and independent, follow my heart. But I still ran into trouble in my relationship department. I always ended up with men who didn't put me as a priority. So whether it was other women, their career, drinking, partying, somehow I always ended up on the back burner. And by somehow, I ended up learning that somehow was me, right? I wasn't putting myself as a priority. So why would anybody else? So over the journey of dating and being in relationships and having broken hearts and loving, I hit a point where I had had enough. I was my mid-30s. The relationship I was in for the past 5+ years ended. And I was really flabbergasted because I thought it was very different than everything prior to that. And it still ended up in the same way as every other relationship. So I really was at that wall, like, what the hell? What do I do? And I was just like,
I think we've all had been at that wall at some point.
Yeah, all those thoughts, like, it's just never going to happen. And also, you know what? I don't want it to happen. I hate men. Forget it.
Yeah. Guilty. So guilty.
Like, who needs them?
Yeah.
But when I was feeling like that, the job I had at the time, I walked into the office a few days after my breakup. It was like the week after. And I said something along those lines of like, why even bother or whatever. And my boss was like, that's such an awful thing to say. You have so much to give. You just haven't found you yet. And I was like, I guess, but I did some thinking on that and really analyzed my past relationships and started to see a pattern, which we all have. When we sit down and we look, we all have a pattern, but we don't want to see it at the time that it's our doing that is creating this pattern. Yeah. So I did a lot of self-investigation. I started down the road of what we all call self-growth, looking within and really where could I take responsibility to make a change and really have the relationship and love that I wanted. And it wasn't shortly after that I met Scott, and we developed our relationship together, which started as friends, which was wonderful. We got to really nourish our relationship. But it's been a wonderful journey because, of course, your triggers still come up in your relationships, even here. But the goal is to be aware and to, like you said, be conscious of the thoughts and the triggers and the old patterns trying to come in and take you back down that road. So together, we have a very awakened relationship where we keep each other on check to those old patterns, always checking in, talking about what we're feeling, not letting each other's walls come up. And that's what allows us to have the best relationship each and every day for us. It's a better relationship today than it was yesterday, and it'll be a better relationship tomorrow than it was today because of that. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. I could talk about it even longer, but I'm going to let you go and give your thing.
Well, that's just there were so many golden nuggets in there, Nancy. Honestly, it was like beautiful. It seriously, I mean, communication is such an integral part of it, right? And that, going back to what I was talking about in the beginning, is the love language is also an understanding that's a type of communication, right? How you love is a type of communication. So Scott, how about you?
Yeah, and I agree, right? Communication is absolutely the most important part of the relationship, and understanding how to communicate to your partner. Mm-hmm. Right? We all communicate differently, just like we all have a different love language. And we tend to give love the way that we want to receive love. Mm-hmm. And we tend to discuss things the way that we want to hear them. But then what do? We distort and we delete, and we hear what our story wants to tell us anyway. And I had a really strong story, right? My story was that I would never be loved, right? I didn't deserve it. I wasn't worthy of it. Lots and lots of those things. And it took, again, failed relationship after failed relationship I was the alter ego, alter side of Nancy, right? I was the cheater. I was the quitter. I was the, flirting and going around. And it filled a need, but it also kept me from getting close.
I love that.
Right? That was I would build that wall and not ever get hurt, not ever experience love, not ever experience the feelings that come with it. And after my last failed relationship, I too looked at, okay, if everywhere I go, I say, this person is a jerk, and I go somewhere else and this person's a jerk, and I go somewhere else and this person's a jerk, and I go somewhere else and this person's a jerk. There's only one common denominator.
He's a jerk.
I'm the jerk.
That's a very hard pill to swallow, is to say, wait, I'm actually the one that's not treating people the way they should be. I'm actually the one that has like massive heart walls that I won't let people in. Let's talk about that, guys. I mean, that's huge. I think that's the core of most of our work that we do, right? You guys do, and I do with our clients, is working around their heart space and breaking through the barriers that they're not worthy, they're not lovable, they're not safe to love, they're not, secure or protected in love, or they just don't feel good enough for love, right? And guys, comment below if you have any questions for them, and we'll have you guys go back and answer it. But please, tell us about opening your heart walls, and tell us about being emotionally unavailable, because that's, I would say, probably with couples, that's the 90% of what I cover with couples. How about you guys?
Yeah, and it's really when you're finding someone is unavailable, right? What do we need to look at? Just what we were talking about. We need to look at where we're unavailable, and we need to look at the beliefs that we have around how we should be loved, and to understand where that belief comes from, right? And really find that root cause for the belief that's running the subconscious to keep attracting in unavailable or man child, or whatever.
Man child, I've had a lot of those.
Whatever that pattern is that someone is experiencing. Yeah. And when you get to that root belief, when you really get them to see where it came from and give it that new meaning, it's the beginning of breaking open that heart space. It's the beginning of getting them out of the cage of the mind and the story that they tell themselves about themselves, to themselves and to everybody else.
Yeah, no, for me, and what I find with a lot of other people that seems to resonate is, I was always scared to speak my mind. What I figured out was because I was scared the person would leave, right? You're like, well, if I actually say what I really want to say about what I want, how I think you should behave right now, or how I don't like how you're behaving right now, or whatever it was that was going on, I wasn't speaking up because I was worried they wouldn't like me anymore. Wow. But all that did was lead us down the road to them no longer liking me or loving me the way they had in the beginning, because I was never my true authentic self. I started out very strong, but then I just stayed very surface-based. I never got below to that deeper level of that heart space of really just coming from my heart of everything I felt and thought about everything that went on. And it again, as you work on it, it's been years that I've been really conscious about where I close up. I still have those walls try to come up, like, I don't know if I want to talk about it. And that's my light bulb, my alarm system for me now, to push through that and make sure that I am authentic to myself, because I don't want anything else. And that's what I really discovered I don't want to live in fakeness. I don't want to live in this, non-authentic relationship, when all it does is it causes work and sadness and disappointment, and nobody's happy in it. At the end of all my relationships, they always said that they just wished this conversation had taken place earlier, right? Because you always end up in that place where you're having that deep conversation of why did you go cheat? Why did you go do this? And then you end up in all this deep talk. Finally, that ice is broken. And that's where the heart comes out of like, why didn't we talk like this before? If you could only do that to start, which is what I learned, when you do it to start, that's what gives you the long lasting, go through anything, not scared of anything, because you love each other unconditionally both ways.
The communication is as equally important as the vulnerability.
Yes.
Oh, I love that. I love that. That's so beautiful. So communication and vulnerability together. That's the key component, really. And guys, I mean, I resonate so much with all that you're saying is that, you know, my grandfather, who was my hero, died right in front of me when I was 15 years old. And then my dad was an abusive alcoholic, right? So my love language was really like, I didn't even know how to love a man because like you, Nancy, I hated them, right? And so I was finding all of these emotionally unavailable men, but it was really my walls that I couldn't, because I didn't want to love, because love hurt, right? If they either die or they leave, right? Or they hurt or they're abusive. And that was my story that I put around love until I became vulnerable, and until I was able to communicate that core of who I was really, truly, I mean, that was such a groundbreaking place for me and you know, I'm a relationship girl and I love being in relationships. I just feel more comfortable in relationships, but I was always in these long-term unsuccessful relationships that would just feel very surface, right? And even my marriage was 19 years. It wasn't the depth of the love of my soul, right? And so what I had to learn, really truly learn, was how to go within me to find love. And so let's talk about that, and let's talk about self-love and finding love within you before you actually can get love on the outside, because it never comes from an outside source, right? It always comes from within, and you emanate out the type of love that you want to call in. So let's talk about that, because that's huge, right?
Yeah, so I like to say, you see what you be, right? You see what you be. And if you're seeing something that's not attractive in your relationship or within yourself, or you're alone and there's a pattern to that, again, it comes back to, where are we located in that space? And self-love, self-care is the most important love that you can have, right? I have a son who I love dearly, but when I was starting to not drink, when I stopped drinking, it couldn't be about him, right? It had to be about the deep self-love that I had to find, that I never had, right? That I didn't get from my parents, that I didn't get anywhere, that I didn't have modeled. I didn't know what that meant. And so again, doing that work to uncover the beliefs of why we don't love ourselves, right? Why don't we show ourselves the love that we're asking for from someone else, right? Give it to ourselves first, and it will appear. Beautiful. That love will come to you.
Yeah. And it has nothing to do with your upbringing, you know, which is what I love about our dual, very opposite dynamic, is Scott.
It works so good. You guys are perfect. You're the amazing. Seriously, you're the yin and yang, and the beautiful divine feminine and the beautiful divine masculine. You really are. So sorry.
No, it's great. And it's great to, I believe, to show people, because it doesn't matter what side of the yin or yang you're on. You know, I came from a family where I was showered with tons of love. I didn't want for anything, especially love. My parents were completely selfless to make sure the kids were always up front. Yet, being a baby of 5, of course, you're gonna, and again, it's just being a human being. It's the biggest thing we teach clients when they go through this process of, it's not to blame. Even if you have a terrible upbringing, it's not about blaming others of what they didn't do, what they did, or. So when I looked at mine in the beginning, that was hard, because I was like, my parents were great. There was nothing I could possibly think of that they didn't do correctly. but they're human, right? So I'm a baby of 5. Of course, I'm getting, dragged to the gymnastic meets. I'm fed out of a carriage. I didn't get the Sunday dinners as often as they did, or whatever, right? There's a whole schmeal that goes in of I'm not the same as the firstborn, of course. But I was given the same amount of love, but I took it differently as a human. So I took it as I internalized it as being put on the back burner of not having the love. So I didn't give it to myself. I gave to others first. But you can't give to others without being full tank yourself. You get depleted. So I found I was constantly dragged down. I was constantly depleted of energy because I was trying to be everything to everyone and wanting to be everything for everyone, rather than touching base with myself, really getting in tune, like we're all talking about here, so I could be authentic and be what I am truly, and just attract in what matched me perfectly. Otherwise, I was running around looking to try to make the match. It's like playing the matching game, right? Instead of just sitting there and knowing if you just get tuned with yourself, it will come in. So for everybody that goes through it, it has nothing to do with your upbringing per se. If you're having trouble in your relationships, it always comes back to self-love, which is why we always start with the relationship with self, with every client we work with. It's always diving in there first, because you got to go there when troubles are brewing in other areas.
That's so amazing. And I just love those. I mean, what you guys said is so important, because if you're not doing the internal work and you expect to have like this beautiful relationship, you're coming in like as a broken part, thinking that someone else is going to make you whole, right? That's never the case. No one is ever going to make you whole, guys. I promise you, you finding yourself and becoming the best version of you is going to make you whole. And then you're going to find somebody else that's whole, and you're not going to be 2 broken halves. You're going to be one whole and another whole that comes together, right?
Yeah. Don't complete somebody, compliment somebody.
Yeah.
Be complete to start with.
Yeah, no, that's such a great point, Noelle, because it really was. And that's what I was doing. I was searching. I was so used to relying on other people because of my family dynamic to fill me up, especially my mother. And I didn't have my growth until after she passed away, because I was forced to experience that break, that disconnect of what I relied on so much to identify myself with.
Wow. And that's such a big thing, is that I had to go back the same with me. And I mean, I had to, no one was ever going to be my grandfather, right? And so it didn't matter who you are. You could have been Superman, and no one was ever going to be my grandfather, or you were going to be my father and you're going to be a complete, jerk, right? And so I put them in 2 categories specifically. It was either my hero, or it was somebody that was going to, I was the victim. And so it's a victim loop that we were in, and we had to break that victim loop, because, there's always the hero, the prosecutor, and the person, sorry, the victim, the prosecutor, and the wait. What is it? It's a triangle, right? Anyway, if you're in the victim loop, there's always going to be somebody that you're reaching for, or somebody that's going to save you, or somebody that you are prosecuting. That's it. The victim, the hero, the prosecutor. Thank you. I had a brain freeze. So let's talk about that, because you guys are relationship coaches, right? And so people so often are in the victim in love, right? That's a big component that we do a ton of work around, is not being in the victim and finding your space where you are whole, and you get to take accountability for who you are and your actions, and you're calling that in, and you're allowing that, right? And I know you guys know that I was physically abused and sexually abused when I was younger, and allowing that at an adult. When it's a child, it's a different thing, right? Things happen to children and you were victimized, right? And you have to heal your inner child and then go back and not be in that space anymore. And part of being a mature adult is not being in that space anymore. But also part of being in a mature relationship is not being in the victim anymore, right? And so let's talk about that, because that's such a huge, huge thing. When, the loop of, again, now that I know it, the victim, the prosecutor, and the hero, let's talk about that within love.
Yeah. There's a lot of times where we want to play the victim. We want to play the blame game. We want to stay in that triangle, right? And why do we stay there? Because it's filling some kind of need. Mm-hmm. It's filling our needs in an unhealthy way, but it's filling our needs. So when we start to look at where folks are in that victim mindset, how can we turn it? How can we flip that magnet to solution mindset, right? And how can we get them off of that cycle? And so I think that's the important.
Yeah. And I always communicate as take charge of your love life, right? It's actually empowering to accept the responsibility, because then you have power over it. The other way, we're like, why does this always happen? Why am I in this place? Why am I still single? Why don't my relationships work? Why does my relationship suck? Whatever. We're in that victim mode of it's happening to me. When we look within and we go, how could I possibly have a hand in this? Suddenly we become our only challenge, but we become the most powerful thing in our relationship, because changing how we're behaving just completely changes the ripple effect to everybody else. It starts eliminating the toxic people that don't want to rise up and go with you, or it starts taking the people that go, gee, this feels so much nicer than it was before. I love communicating this way versus the way we used to. And it just changes the whole dynamic by you looking within and changing your behaviors from your old patterns. So I think looking at it as I have responsibility over this, internalizing it, even though it was hard at first, now when it's explained to people that way, it's like, oh, this can be empowering. It's not scary. It's not sad. It's not, oh, poor me. It's holy crap. I have complete control over my relationships in every realm and my life. So where do I start? And then you just go from there. And
which is why one person can change the relationship.
Yeah, it only takes one person to start bettering the relationship. You want to make it the best relationship ever? Yeah, we got to get that other person on board. But you can start changing and making it a better relationship by just looking within at what can you be doing differently to attract in differently.
I love that so much. And one thing that you said, Nance, that I want to touch on is that sometimes in relationships, you outgrow energetically, right? I mean, everyone knows that I like, we talk energy, and so do you. You guys do energy work on the deepest level too. It's not really what we're talking about today, but energetically, if you rise and you get to a higher level of consciousness and you actually heal your inner child, and then that person either is going to come with you, or they're going to change and come with you and rise as well, or they're going to fade away, right? And so let's talk about that. And when, like, sometimes your relationships dissolve and you thought that you were in a really good relationship, and or there's always something that's coming. If something's released out of your life, it's just opening space for something better. That's what I say all the time, right? And I really truly am like a fairy, and many people don't understand it, because I can go from one energy to another very, very quickly. And they're like, wait, how did we were just in a relationship a couple of weeks ago. But for me, if it's done, I'm like, I'm done, and I move on. And so maybe go into that and the energetics behind it, because you guys know energy as much as I do. And most of my viewers do too. So.
Yeah, and it's such an important aspect, right? To be on that same vibration, to be on that in that same energy space, and it allows you to open your heart. It allows you to be vulnerable, and it allows you to grow. And yes, some folks do not want to take the ride, right? There are people out there that, as they start to do work, as they start to do that self-love, they find that they weren't being loved nearly what they deserve. They had the I'm not enough complex, so they had somebody who treated them like you're not enough, right? So no, it's not always going to be where that works. We outgrow, we out-energize people, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you put the work in and you're true to yourself, which I applaud you for, right? You're being true to yourself. You're being authentic, and you're not living in a space of, well, maybe it's not really done. Getting into the story of why you should stay, and maybe I'm not going to get anything better. Maybe this is all it's going to be. Maybe this is all I deserve, right? You're being true and authentic, and if we are really located in that place, then we're in the heart space, and we're not in the cage of the mind. And if we can make the decision, the choice, we have choice moments every moment, if we make that choice from the heart space, that's the path that we're following. That's the journey that we're on. That's the energy space that we're living in.
Yeah, living from that heart space versus the mind. And it's really funny because from the time I was little, my mother was a psychic. She was energy. She just didn't, she was you. She just didn't have the terminology that's used today as much. And she had her own, she taught herself. But from a young kid, and all of us in my family, we were always taught either people will rise up or you sink down to their level. And she always encouraged you to never sink to someone's level, whether it was bullying, making fun of people, how girls can get catty and all that kind of stuff growing up in adolescence to when you're an adult and you're in real life situations of work and, coworkers, to always stay true to yourself, but never sink to someone's level. So if someone's not speaking to you how you'd like to be spoken, don't sink to their level and back at them if that's not what you want to do. Rise up and tell them, I don't really appreciate being talked to that way. Why don't we have a conversation when you can calm down a second, right? And these kinds of lessons, putting them into effect throughout my life and watching people like shocked because no one says those kinds of things, again, put you in the power seat, the driver's seat of your life. And it was all energy. It was staying located here when the rest of the world's down here, which I was a bartender for almost 20 years. You had to have high energy when you went in, even if the day sucked. You had to go in and be like, the world's the best, and bring everyone's energy up, right? So I've trained that in myself of keeping that energy space to where I want it for the day. So it's really important for me to start my day in that place of where do I want to be today? What do I want to attract in? And really staying tuned to it throughout the day as you come in contact with things, because things will try to bring you down if you're not aware. You can end up in someone else's energy space. So holding your own and helping others in that moment of, rising them up, you can. And like you said, the ones that aren't there or aren't ready, they will just take a back seat. They'll go somewhere else. It's not for them. And that's okay. It's their journey. It's where they need to be. So we continue, people like us, we continue because it's our love and passion to inspire others, and we'll inspire some people, and some people will go, they're crazy, and turn it off.
I got that a little bit, just a little.
We just have to know where we are, but it's all energy space, and where you're located, and just keeping that space for yourself and other people. In my opinion.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. And so, energy priming is one of my key things that have probably saved my life, right? I literally wake up and I meditate in an hour. I set my intention for the day. My energy is primed for the day. I clear my energy at night. I go through my chakras and clear everything. That's high level stuff because we do it for a living but just even setting the intention, just making the conscious choice to be in a better energy, making the conscious choice to have self-worth, making the conscious choice to not be treated the way you were treated in the past, making the conscious choice to say, today I'm going to step into my power. And how does that look, right? It doesn't have to be the depth that we do in the energetic fields, but it definitely is conscious living, and loving is conscious, right? There's another human being involved, and you have to understand that your stories are not their stories, right? And so often what we get with love, and you guys can talk a little bit about this, but what happens often with many of my clients is they get so wrapped up in their story that they don't even see what's going on with their partner's story, right? And so what we don't understand is that all of us, from 0 to 7, 0 to 10, our brains are malleable. Whether it was you were raised in a beautiful family that was loving, or you had a lot going on in your family, like you, Scott. You both had issues that were going on that you had to work through, and you both had stories about love, right? And so if we're not, and I love that you said this, vulnerable and communication, because those are the two keys. When you could be in your heart space and you can communicate from a place of vulnerability and true self-love, that is the highest vibration you can emanate out, guys, right? And so let's talk about like the partnership, because you guys do it so well, like being a conscious couple and really truly making a conscious effort to be cognizant of your partner's needs, right? I think that that's such a tremendous thing that both of you guys just do. If you ever spend a minute with these guys, you would understand that there's never a moment where either one of you don't feel taken care of or loved. And it's just the flow that you guys have. And it's so beautiful. So maybe give some life hacks to our viewers about that.
Yeah. I'll tell you the simplest one. If you get up to get yourself a glass of water, get your partner a glass of water.
Oh, I love that.
Right? Yeah. It starts that simple. And then it goes to quantum depths in our relationship. If your partner, okay, so communication and vulnerability is like a roadmap, right? I know every street, I know every stop sign, I know every corner, right? So if there's an indicator, if there's a roadblock or a detour, that doesn't give me permission to stop.
So beautiful.
Right? I have to look and find, okay, why is she not being communicative? Why is she quiet today? And then investigate, not go, she's just moody, bitchy, whatever judgment we want to come up with. Instead, I say, hey, Nance, what's going on? 98% of the time, she says, I'm in that old pattern. I have something due for a client. I'm work, and I caught myself. But I'm still in a little bit of that story. So we stop whatever we're doing, we talk. And we balance each other. So if I'm triggered, if I have something going on, she knows my roadmap because I've been vulnerable and I've communicated. And we understand each other and we understand each other's needs and how to meet them in healthy, positive ways. And to do that, it simply comes down to opening up to that heart space, to that communication, and not being afraid of, and yes, it's got to be a safe space. There's got to be a conversation about that. And there's ways to guide folks through it. But it's a simple, safe conversation. And there's nothing going on. You're not breaking up because there's a conversation. That's the story we tell ourselves. Oh, well, if I say this, they're going to say that. It's going to be, all hell is going to break loose. And it's going to be, World War III. And I can't say that. There are nice ways to say it. We've got a lot of patterns that go on where we believe the story that we tell ourselves, so we never communicate it. And we've had this dialogue in our head. Well, I'm going to say this. They're going to say that. I'm going to say this. Nope, I'm not going to win. I just won't do it. And the more that goes on, the further apart that communication, that vulnerability, that roadmap becomes.
Yeah, and that was the exact path I took in my relationships, which is why slowly over time, the foundation wasn't there. There was a big void. There was no vulnerability in the sense of really being that one for each other. But I think it's really kind of two-sided, the communication and vulnerability, because I think of myself before doing work and I'd be like, what's the difference? Is how I would think about that. But before I communicated I talked to them all the time of what's going on. I wasn't afraid to ask them. I was scared to be vulnerable. So that's a little bit of the difference there. They didn't ask questions, so I didn't open up when I felt something. I didn't show my vulnerability and value my vulnerability, that it mattered, it meant something, it should be talked about. But I would want to know what's going on with them all day long. So a lot of times you have that dynamic in a relationship where one person's like, I want to know about your past. I want to know about this. And they're asking, and the person's either closed off and they don't want to talk about it, or nobody's asking. So the person just isn't ever going to bring anything up because it's like, don't go there, But it's really kind of those two looking at where do you fall in that? Where is your part in that? and looking at your partner. Are they the type to ask you a lot of questions, but they don't say anything about themselves? So how can you get them to start showing their vulnerability and create a safe space? Which a lot of times bringing in a third party to learn the system is a great way to go, because we don't know how to get there. We don't know how to get the person there. And they don't know how to get themselves there without the walls coming up and just stopping everything, putting that dam, you know? But it's that story that will keep you in the same place of no growth and not moving forward, not having the conversations, because we talk ourselves right out of it.
That's so true. And it's just having an awareness of the patterns that are going on in your life, in your relationships that you have. And we say all the time, right, that life comes and teaches you lessons with different people in different circumstances, but it's the same lesson, right? So why is a different guy showing up with the same exact lesson, right? It's because you didn't do the work and you need to go within and find out what's going on, right? And then honor you enough to be vulnerable and get in that space and ask questions, right? Like, I love that you guys said that so much. We are going to take a quick break and we will be right back, and we're going to talk about adventure therapy and you guys as coaches and what that looks like. We will be right back, guys. Thanks so much. Hold on. Welcome back, and thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for everyone that's watching and on the replay. We are going deep into love in the heart space and finding out what we can do for love and how to communicate and how to be vulnerable. And Scott and Nancy Kiesling are relationship coaches, and they are adventure therapy experts, and they are amazing. We have the same passion for love and for travel, guys. Welcome back. Thank you again for being here. So let's talk adventure therapy, guys, because this is one of my favorite topics in the world. Like, love is all mushy and heart space and we get all emotional, but let's talk about what you guys do as adventure therapists. And like, you just got back from Zion and you were like canyoning or something, right? Talk about travel and how it connects to your soul and how you use adventure therapy to make people the best versions of themselves.
Yeah, so thanks again for having us. We love being on your show, and we love talking everything love and adventure. We truly do. That's it. You find us in a restaurant, we're talking love and adventure. You find us outside in the woods, we're talking love and adventure. For me, they go hand in hand, right? I love connecting my spirit to the earth. I love connecting my mind, body, and soul truly with Mother Nature. I always have. And what I found is I'm not the only one.
Definitely not.
It touches everybody's soul. That's the idea of Mother Earth. It touches our souls. So when we get out there, whether it's under a tree, in a park, walking in the air, it's touching our soul. So what I found with clients through our rock climbing gym was that we would have these really deep conversations when they were hanging 80 feet in the air. And most of them were around fear. And my true belief about fear is that it's false evidence appearing real. And that you're not in danger. You're connected to a rope. You've got a guide with you that's, there's safety protocols that are put in place. But when we teach to stop the human behavior of fear, right? That doesn't mean there's not danger, right? If you're standing in front of a train, that's dangerous. But if you're worried about a train that's going by, that's fear, right? And it's false evidence appearing real because you're not standing in front of the train. You're not going to stand in front of the train, right? So again, we go back to that story. So we can again change that belief, change that mindset, unlock the cage of the mind, but our body still wants to act out fear. So when we tie in the adventure therapy, we break the habit, we break the pattern within the biggest muscle of the body that holds all of our experiences, all of our traumas, all of our everything, all of our fears. When we crack that open, if you will, then we've tied them together and we don't act out that human behavior anymore.
Yeah, I love that so much. That's all me right there, right? And I know you guys run adventure retreats all over the world. Maybe talk a little bit about that. And like, I know that you guys have done Costa Rica and Bali and like incredible places, and you rappel into caves and you jump off cliffs. And I mean, when I say adventure therapy, guys, we're not like canoeing down a river. They're legit getting you into your fear and facing your every fear that you have, right? So Nancy, talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's everything from hiking to waterfall rappelling and everything in between. For some people, the flight to wherever we're going is their big experience, right? They have fear of getting on a plane, fear of going to an exotic country. Mm-hmm. Stories come up in everything we do. So increasing that comfort zone throughout the 7 days on all these adventures brings about a lot to talk about, because we don't do anything that anyone can do. Anyone that has, as long as you can climb a flight of stairs, you can come do all of our experiences. It fits that physical fitness level. But again, that story is going to come up and go, I can't kayak down. I can't rappel down. Are you crazy? I can't. But again, everybody can. I mean, he's taken people rock climbing that were in wheelchairs. So it's the mindset around it is what we coach people through. And when they have that experience on the retreat and see what they're actually capable of and come down the other side completely empowered that, oh my God, I did this, it changes that mindset about themselves, that self-love that we were talking about. Now, COVID has changed things a little bit, right? So we had to get kind of creative in how we bring adventure therapy to people. The fun part about adventure therapy is it doesn't have to be as extreme as waterfall rappelling or rock climbing. It can be just something that gets your physiology out of its everyday normal routines, because we all have things that we do on autopilot. We all have feelings that we follow and behaviors we follow as we feel those feelings.
We all have comfort zones.
And I love that you break them, just so you know. I do that too. So it's
and that's my big thing on the which really got me into the adventure is I love the comfort zone part of it. You know, I connect to nature and all of that, but I get hooked on, oh my God, I don't think I can do it. I can do it. And then when I do it, I'm like, oh my God. So it's really that fun part of it for me. But with COVID, we had to get creative with adventure therapy because we really have a deep belief in it being the reason people have permanent transformative change and why we believe our coaching is different. So because we can't go on retreats and travel right now for the time being, we got creative of bringing adventure therapy to people's homes in different ways, you know? So we bring this adventure with our clients into either their backyard or their hometown environment, of putting them on their own date with themselves for the day of doing some kind of adventure within their area. And it's been really fun and kind of shocking for the clients a little bit, like all of a sudden on week 7, working together, it's like, so you're going kayaking today. But everything's set up and they have a nice date with themselves. And by the end of it, you know, because even that, the story creeps in of, I'm going to go out to dinner by myself. Wait, what do you mean? I'm going to go sit by myself and have dinner at what restaurant?
That's a big thing, going to dinner by yourself. Like, it's like in the last couple of years have done it, but now it's like I have wine and my salad, and it's my time. Like, it's my time to do that. I love that you do that.
Yeah.
I love it. Movies alone and dinner alone.
Yeah.
Superb.
Oh my gosh. Well, I love you guys so much. Thank you so much. One life hack to give everybody